Good morning. It's Linda Stacy of Living Blueprints, and today I'm going to be talking about leaders and bosses and which is which and who really you should rely on when it comes to leadership in your life. Again, Living Blueprints, Linda Stacy. If you're watching this on Facebook and or YouTube, I would love it if you would like and subscribe if you're on YouTube so that I can get to that custom URL. And of course, it also helps other people see the content that might be relevant for them. So, Living Blueprints is all about giving people tools to achieve and succeed, ultimately to have an awesome life on their terms, however they define success. It's really based around freedom and having, just a very free experience of everything, given obligations, responsibility, but also, where's time for play? Where's time to be who you really are at your core and bring the best of who you are. And, overall, I think that we can't really rely on other people for leadership or for telling us who we are at our core, especially our bosses. And I think we put a lot of pressure on them, and I don't think we should necessarily. We can't rely on them. Not enough of them are actually truly leaders. We call them leaders because they're in positions of authority, but it really isn't the way to go. And I'm not bashing on managers today. I have some ideas here around why we can't really rely on these individuals as our leaders. But going back to Maslow and the hierarchy of needs, which is, kind of an old model at this point in terms of what we need as human beings to survive and do well in organizations and in life. But many of the principles still hold. And, after we've met the needs of shelter and food, those are kind of our baseline biological needs. Humans have a need for safety, we have needs for belonging, and we have needs for mattering, that we matter in an environment. And sometimes we rely on work for all of this. And I'm suggesting that that might not be a healthy situation, but we see this play out all the time. Again, in order to feel like human and self-actualized, as Maslow would say, we need to feel safe, we need to have a sense of belonging, and we need to matter. If we don't have these things, we tend to act out of fear. And as one author was saying, we're almost like this fearful critter who really can't do anything, who's just hiding and kind of trying to do everything right. If we can have these things, we can work smarter. We can be in our smart state. We can perform better. We can innovate. We can emotionally engage in our work. We can move forward. And theoretically, I think this is what organizations want for their people. They want them to be emotionally engaged and act, feel that their work matters and move forward. And every communication, every conflict is kind of led by the subconscious or this reinforcing or begging for safety, belonging, or mattering. This is what a lot of us are seeking when we're engaging with other people, especially when we're in conflict. We want someone to reinforce these feelings for us. So the premise here is that leaders should behave in ways so that employees feel safe, so that they feel like they belong and they feel like they matter. And I guess I question, is a leader really capable of doing that? Is it their sole responsibility? How many other things are they doing? Leaders don't always behave this way. We know that. We know that people leave bosses, not companies. And there's just too many people that are leading that don't really have the skills to help us feel safe, help us belong, and help us feel like we matter. I listed some things. You can probably think of other things. But one thing is a lot of companies don't invest in their management or leadership training. That's, it's a luxury for really big companies. A lot of companies do really well without investing in management. With a lot of people being miserable, the company still succeeds. So what's the point? Or, it's like, okay, there's unhappy people. That's just the way that it goes. Sometimes leaders don't take advantage of the training that's available to them. They don't see it as an advantage. They don't see themselves as having a problem. They can be too busy. They might think that they are actually managing or leading in a way that makes their people feel safe, makes them feel like they belong, and make them feel matter. But maybe they are just not capable of articulating it. It's a miss, and they're just not seeing it. And, we've been watching Mad Men in this COVID environment, which has been done, I guess, for a while now, but we're about the 5th or 6th season, I'd say. And there was one scene where the older Mrs. Blankenship secretary makes a comment about the environment being full of sadists and masochists. And I thought that was a really interesting archetype for the the world of corporate, that there are people who, and in this scene, Don Draper has just come back from like a 2.5 hour lunch where he was really just with a woman for those 2.5 hours. And then he was going to take a nap while his subordinate Peggy has been working through lunch on a campaign. And it's like, is this the person that we are seeking self-worth from? I mean, clearly Peggy wants some kind of approval from him. And again, this is an exaggeration. It's a stereotype, but there's something to this, that we're seeking validation, self-worth, fundamentally from often really broken people. Now, Don Draper is a very broken person who's really trying, and we develop sympathy for him. And ultimately, we're all broken in some way. I mean, we're not all, no one gets a free ride in terms of having like the perfect life and not having some sense of brokenness or something that they're overcoming and trying to be validated through the work. So ultimately, I feel like, how can we cultivate safety, belonging, and mattering ourselves? How can we do this so that we can self-lead? We can't rely on our bosses or managers for this. I mean, believe me, I'm willing to run training sessions for bosses and managers and leaders who want to do this. But this is a big task. And I really feel like if we can take it upon ourselves to develop and cultivate these feelings of belonging without seeking it from the outside, we'll be in so much better shape. And ultimately we'll behave in ways that we will end up getting it from the outside. But it really starts from within. We can't start from needing it from the outside. It's not going to come that way. So how can we develop self-reliance? We can build emotional intelligence. I did a session, a live stream on emotional intelligence. Knowing that you can figure things out, knowing that you've struggled through things in the past and that struggle is part of the solution and that you can get through. I think this is huge. Not relying on someone else to continue to tell you to push along. Having resilience. And a lot of what I teach is all about, resilience and setting yourself up so that you're well served. And the other one was asking questions that come from a place of accountability, which was the last live that I did. So instead of asking questions like, who thought of this, which is very victim mentality, who came up with this brilliant idea type of thing, to, how can I provide better information to leaders ultimately so that they can make maybe a more informed decision. So these are just some ideas around what we really need at our core level in terms of safety, belonging, and mattering, and maybe not relying so much on external people to validate. And maybe instead, work towards common goals, work on partnering, work on, being on the same side as people. Ultimately, the more that you can root yourself on and root others on towards growth and towards a common goal, you're likely going to have a better experience of work and life and of self-leadership and self-management, which I think is really the end game and the path towards freedom. So again, this is Linda Stacy of Living Blueprints. I would love it if you'd like and subscribe to the channel on YouTube. And again, I wanted to offer that I'm doing remote workshops, kind of putting together pieces based on what an organization or a functional group might need, especially in this environment around COVID and people struggling with various aspects of work from home and uncertainty and creating new paths, new normals in this in-between stage, or maybe this transitional stage, or whatever we're in. So reach out to me, and I hope you're having a great week. Bye-bye.